Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to describe to you the three remaining parts of a research paper that we need to cover. That's the introduction, the abstract, and the title. So let's first look at the introduction. The idea of the introduction is that this is going to set the stage for the research that you're going to be presenting in your paper. The introduction is geared towards a more general audience than the rest of the paper. And within the introduction itself, the very beginning part of the introduction is going to be even more general than the end. So let's take a look at the different parts of the introduction. The very first part of the paper, of the introduction, is going to be to identify or introduce the research area and establish the importance of the research area. So this is going to be looking at things like what is the big picture that the research project is going to be looking at, what types of problems is it going to be solving, what is, if it's a more fundamental type of research project, what are the potential applications of that. So there's those three goals: identify the research area, establish the importance, and then a lot of what you'll do in the introduction is provide essential background information. This chunk of the introduction is the longest part. It's going to be many paragraphs long. I don't know, specifically how many is the right number. It depends on the project that you're working on. Some introductions are only a few paragraphs long. Some are, 6, 7, 8 paragraphs long. So I would say that for your projects, probably about 5 paragraphs here at the most will suffice for introducing the research area. Then there's two other things that we'll do in the introduction. The next thing is identify a gap or gaps. So this is a gap in the research that needs to be, filled, which is the third part of the introduction. And on the next slide, I'll walk you through some terms and examples of gap statements. But this is basically like the idea of why you're doing the research project. If you're discussing your research with someone, this is the point where you say, our research is really important because it tells us about this thing and no one else's research does that. So this is an important thing to do, identify the gap. And then the last paragraph of the introduction, so the identify a gap may only be a sentence or two, but the filling the gap part is probably about a paragraph. And this is typically the last paragraph of the introduction. And so in the filling the gap, you're going to be introducing the current work and previewing key findings in the current work. Now, this I said is optional, but I think it's a really good idea. It's basically going to set the tone for what the readers will be looking at or seeing and reading about in the rest of the article. So oftentimes when I'm reading through research articles, the abstract is really useful, but sometimes it's almost too dense to be able to pull out the important pieces of information in some cases. So the last paragraph of the introduction is a great place to get a nice summary of what the paper will be doing. So I like to look at that many times when I'm skimming through some articles to see if they're useful. It is really important to be citing literature in the introduction, and that's going to come up in the first part where you introduce the research area, and then where you're identifying the gap. And again, we go from a very general type of topic area, into a more specific area. So this is some background information in the general, and then specifically you're talking about what's being done in the paper. Okay. So that's sort of the general move structure for the introduction. Let's look at some examples of gap statements, and this is from the Write Like a Chemist book, again available as an ebook. So there's several different types of gaps that this ebook points out, and then some example statements of how you could go about writing about that type of gap. So, for instance, if you have a question that remains unanswered, maybe there's been some work that's done, but the next project that was done in your lab, for instance, helped to solve one problem that you weren't able to answer with any previous research that was done. So you could say, numerous questions remain unanswered about whatever the subject is. If anything, there's an area that has yet to been studied. Maybe you could go with something like, these related topics X have been the subject of several studies. However, to our knowledge, no studies on Y, the current topic, have been reported. And so you can read through these different types of gaps and their example statements. You don't have to use the exact wording here in these example statements, but it gives you some good ideas as what types of example statements you may come across. Okay. And then, again, in that last paragraph of the introduction, that's when we're filling the gap. So there's some nice transition statements to help you get started on writing that last paragraph. It's very often that you'll see these transition statements as the first statement in the last paragraph of the introduction. So in the present study, we present or whatever, or we found or we investigated. In this work, we calculated, whatever it may be. So feel free to look through these transitions and use the we word here as well. In the present study, we did so and so. Even though I know that it's just you writing this, we're going to use the royal we, as they say. So yeah, feel free to steal these transitions and start writing your last paragraph of the introduction. So that basically summarizes what gets done in the intro. The abstract is going to be a short-ish paragraph, no more than about 200 words. Typically, publishers do actually limit the number of words you can have in an abstract. 200 or 300 is pretty typical. So you're going to be limited to about 200 words. I'm not going to count them, but just so you know, it's a good place to be. And this is going to summarize the research area first and its importance. So that goes back to the introductory type material. Mention the gap. Again, why should someone care about the work you've done? And then any accomplishments of the work. It might be useful to mention any unique procedures and instrumentation. If we're looking at an analytical chemistry type of project or something that uses instrumentation that's not particularly common, you tend to write about that instrumentation in the abstract. And then this is really important. This last bit is to highlight any major results, either quantitative or qualitative results, in the actual abstract itself. So you need to have a statement that says our results show or something to that effect, just to highlight the really cool part of the research project that you've been working on. And then maybe offer a concluding remark. This can be in different forms, basically to summarize the importance of the work or something like that. Typically, you don't talk about a future work in the abstract or any places where you need to do, some other type of experiment. So if you don't figure out a concluding remark to put in the abstract, no big deal. I highly recommend that you write the abstract last. Once you know everything that's going to go in the introduction and the results and the discussion, then it's really easy to go through and pick out the important parts of those papers and basically just line them up 4 or 5 sentences in your abstract. Okay, that brings us to the title. Now, the Write Like a Chemist book describes a very general way of coming up with titles for papers. This is not 100% followed by people in the literature, but you do see this relatively frequently. So after studying hundreds of different articles and looking at their titles and figuring out the parts of the titles, the authors of the Write Like a Chemist book came up with this sort of plan. And that is, first you include some sort of nominalization, so determination of or investigation of, analysis of, measurement of some sort of thing, and that's what was studied. So you need to have this what was studied part. That's sort of like every title has a what was studied. Then you may see a method mentioned in the last part, or what was impacted by the study. So if you follow this sort of outline, it's relatively easy to come up with a decent title. So again, it's a nominalization, what was done, determination, investigation, synthesis, measurement, analysis, calculation, something like that, of whatever the topic is, and then using or by whatever method or whatever it impacted. So let's look at a couple examples. So this is a little bit cluttered here, but I've tried to identify the nominalizations, what was studied. So nominalizations are in orange, what was studied are in green, and then methods are in blue. So if we look at this first title, Determination of Arsenic in Seagrass Using Inductively Coupled Plasma Mass Spectrometry. This one is very straightforward, follows the pattern described on the previous slide very easily. And so the nominalization is determination. And then what was studied is arsenic in seagrass. And then the method was inductively coupled plasma mass spectrometry. So this is a technique that allows you to look at heavy metals at really low concentrations. So this is a nice and somewhat specific instrument to use. So if we look at the next one, I don't necessarily think that a nominalization was included in this next title. So we have gaseous and particulate emissions from prescribed burning in Georgia. So I said that what was studied were the gaseous and particulate emissions, and then the method, or if we go back to our previous slide, impacted was the prescribed burning in Georgia. Okay, so how are gaseous and particulate emissions affected by prescribed burns, basically. And then the last title I've included here goes back to our sort of three-move structure. We have synthesis of peptide oligonucleotide conjugates for chromium coordination. So we go the nominalization, what was studied, and then what it can be applied to. So that basically summarizes those three remaining parts of the paper. If we were doing this in class, I would have a paper for you to look at, and we would look at the introduction and look at how the authors introduced the research area and how many paragraphs were included. What's the gap statement? Circle the gap statement, and then how do the authors fill the gap? Is there one paragraph? Is it at the end? That kind of thing. Because we're not in class, when you are going through your references that you're going to be using for your paper, I highly recommend looking through one or two of your papers and looking at how the introduction is laid out. And you'll find that in most cases, any published papers are going to follow the introduction outlined that we've talked about. All right.